Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles, and today is tank review day. There's a brand new premium Soviet Tier 8 heavy tank coming soon, the Object 252. It's pretty much intended to be a replacement in the premium store for the IS-6, because the IS-6 gets premium matchmaking and the Object 252 doesn't. Wargaming's trying to get away from tanks that have premium matchmaking, and that's one of the downsides of the Object 252. It's a Tier 8 heavy without premium matchmaking. It is going to see Tier 10s. But whereas you couldn't really put the IS-6 into a fight with Tier 10s because of the terrible penetration on its 122mm gun, that's where the Object 252 is different, and we're going to be taking a look at it today. It's normal at this point in a tank review for me to start talking about the history of the machine involved. Well, that's not going to take very long with the Object 252 because it only ever existed in technical drawings. Now, you might have seen some photographs of something that is alleged to be an Object 252. What that is in fact is the Object 253 with the BL-13 gun that the Object 252 was supposed to be equipped, because the Object 253 and the Object 252 were both competing designs for what was supposed to become the IS-6. Neither design was successful, they didn't offer any significant advantages over the IS-2, and so the whole IS-6 prototype project was cancelled. Nevertheless, this prototype tank is going to be available in World of Tanks very, very soon, and it's going to arrive in two different flavours. The standard edition, Object 252, will have a gold value of 10,950 gold, and it's going to look like this. Wargaming are, however, releasing a sort of premium version of the Object 252, which is identical in all respects, except it comes with an exclusive camouflage pattern, and that is going to look like this. Now, I don't know anything about this premium camouflage pattern version of the Object 252. We can probably take it for granted that it's going to offer you the same camouflage bonuses as your regular store-bought camouflage patterns for your existing tanks, but whether you're going to get anything beyond that with this premium version of the Object 252, I have absolutely no idea. It would be nice if it gave you something like 50% bonus crew XP in the same way that premium camouflage patterns do for your ships in World of Warships, but that's pure speculation at this point. So, back to the garage, and the regular premium, i.e. not the premium, this could get very confusing very quickly. The regular premium version of the Object 252. Is it any good? Is it worth spending money on? Well, I can't tell you whether it's worth spending money on. That decision is entirely in your own hands. But I can tell you that yes, it is good. And to show you why, we're going to go over the numbers, and then I'm going to play some games in it, and then, well, you can pretty much make your own mind up. So, what's different, first of all, between this tank and the IS-6? Well, two things. First of all, this tank does not get premium matchmaking. The IS-6 will, at best, get into Tier 9 games, and that's why Wargaming want rid of it. They want to do away with premium matchmaking altogether. The Object 252 will get into Tier 10 battles. And that's where we see the second major difference between the IS-6 and the Object 252. It's that BL-13 gun. This gun has a whopping dirty great 440 alpha damage. That's more than any other Tier 8 heavy tank. In fact, that's Tier 10 Soviet heavy tank levels of upfront knockout punch. And the penetration isn't too bad either. Like the IS-3 with the BL-9 gun, it has 225mm of penetration with its standard armour-piercing ammunition, and 265mm of penetration with its premium ammunition, which in the Object 252 is APCR. The 252 does, however, pay for that high alpha damage by having a shockingly slow reload. It only fires 3.75 rounds per minute, and despite the high alpha damage, that slow reload means that it also has a fairly dismal damage per minute of only 1650. But like the old KV-1S, back when it was the terror of Tier 6 with the 122mm gun, this tank isn't about the damage per minute in the first place. It's all about that big knockout alpha damage. It's all about lurking behind cover, then rolling out and blasting somebody in the face and shaving off 2/3 of their health. And that's something that the Object 252 is more than capable of doing. The rest of the stats on the gun look pretty bad until you look at them in context. Remember, this is the tank that's going to be replacing the IS-6, and while it does have a 3.2 second aiming time and terribly bad 0.44 accuracy, that's actually better than the IS-6. The only outstanding feature that the IS-6 has over the Object 252 as far as firepower is concerned is a faster reload, and therefore higher damage per minute, but it's less accurate, and it's got lower penetration. and it takes longer to aim, so that theoretical damage per minute advantage that the IS-6 has on paper is just that. It's theoretical, and it's on paper. First you have to hit them, then you have to penetrate them in order for that allegedly superior DPM to actually take effect. So the 252 unquestionably has a better gun than the IS-6, but then again the 252 is going to need a better gun than the IS-6 because the 252 is going to have to fight tier 10s and the IS-6 isn't. And that brings us on to the next outstanding feature of the Object 252, the armour. Now, the IS-6 is a very, very well armoured tank, but as far as actual armour thickness is concerned, the Object 252 has it beat all around. It has 130mm of frontal hull armour, 100 at the sides, 90 at the rear. It has 250 of frontal turret armour, 150 at the sides, and 100 at the rear. But as with the IS-6, it's not all about the raw thickness of the armour. It's about the shaping, the sloping, and the angling. The amount of sloping on that upper glacis pike nose armour is so extreme that 130mm of actual armour thickness is practically an automatic ricochet from the front, at least from directly head-on. And even if you don't automatically ricochet, the effective thickness is around 400mm. The lower glacis, on the other hand, despite actually being thicker at 140mm of armour thickness, is far less well sloped and is a much bigger target on the Object 252 than on the IS-6. From the front on level ground, you pretty much only need around about 200mm of penetration to be able to beat the 252's lower glacis. You can also pretty much forget about shooting at the front of the Object 252's turret, thanks to the combination of 250mm of armour thickness plus that extreme sloping and angling. The effective armour thickness around the front of the turret on this tank, where it's not an automatic bounce zone thanks to the amount of angle, is anything between 250 to 500mm of effective frontal armour. However, there is a shot trap underneath the gun mantlet. The armour there around the driver's hatch is only 60mm thick. Don't waste your time trying to hit it from the front, by the way. It's sloped back at an angle of something like 82 degrees. It'll just ricochet off and hit the gun mantlet, but if you aim underneath the gun and hit the gun mantlet, it'll bounce down and go clean through that 60mm of armour, definitely killing the driver and definitely doing damage to the tank. You may, if you're accurate enough and you have the penetration, be able to hit that raised back plate to the rear of the driver's hatch, but it is 250mm thick as well. The side armour is 100mm thick, but the area above the tracks is sloped back at an angle of 54 degrees, which gives it an effective thickness of around about 170. Just underneath that, the area just above the tracks is exactly 100mm thick, but it's nice and flat, so you should be able to penetrate there every time. However, while this flat section of armour just below the angled part of the upper side hull does look like a nice flat inviting target, try to avoid shooting the tank here because this is spaced armour. As far as the mobility of the tank's concerned, it's not bad. It's got exactly the same top speed of 35 km per hour as the IS-6. It has a reverse speed of 14 km per hour. Its 700 horsepower engine does give it slightly less power to weight ratio than the IS-6, but it turns faster at 30 degrees per second. And it's also got much better braking power than the IS-6, so it comes to a stop a lot faster. Both tanks have the same 350 meter view range, they both have the same 6 degrees of gun depression, and while the absolutely terrible radio provided on this preview version of the Object 252 is shockingly bad, the version that's going to go on sale is going to have 740 meters of signal range. So what's the tank actually like in practice? Oh, wait and see. The first game that I played in the Object 252 was not particularly memorable. I mean, I survived and I got 4 kills, but I only did 1100 damage. It was a tier 8 match on Live Oaks. I was the only tank on my team that went into the town in the northwest corner of the map, so I was forced to play very, very defensively. But it at least gave me a taste for how the tank handled. This was the very next game that I played, my second game in the Object 252, and this was going to be a very, very short game, but a very impressive one nonetheless. The match starts. It's a tier 8 battle on Ruinberg. There's only one artillery on the enemy team, and Ruinberg, of course, is a city map, so once again, the matchmaker's been very kind to me. I've gunned the engine, and since I'm in a very, very heavily armoured tier 8, top tier heavy tank, I head straight into the centre of town. Unlike when I was playing on Live Oaks, I do actually have a bit of backup here. I'm just not entirely sure the right tanks have come into the town with me. They're mediums. Then again, the enemy team do have more heavy tanks. In fact, there's only one other heavy tank on my entire team. That's the Emil 1. and he is at least coming into the town with me, and this should have provided me with some warning of what was about to happen. The enemy team have a lot more heavy tanks, and I think I'm about to run into pretty much all of them, starting with the IS-3, who bounces off my frontal armour. Here comes another Tier 8 heavy, who also bounces off my frontal armour. This guy, of course, is an autoloader. The Emil-1, he bounces again. There's another Emil-1 over there. I'm reloaded. Do some more damage to that guy. He's now taking fire from the other end of the street as the IS-3. And these guys are doing exactly the right thing here. They rush me, they swarm me. The IS-3 in particular is in a great spot. I have to back off and keep my front pointing towards these guys, but I'm about to reload and finish that Emil off. That's the only guy who's actually managed to do any damage to me so far. Not the IS-3 and not that other Emil, sniping from the corner of the road over there, although he's just figured out he should be aiming at my cheek armour and is now actually starting to do some damage. My tracks are gone again. Since I'm sitting here with nowhere to go, I'll just ammo rack that T-34-85, tracks it back up, and that IS-3 is about to figure out that he should be shooting at my lower glacis, and he's actually killed my driver. That's not good. I don't think I realised my driver was gone at the time, and all that confusion. Trying to back up around the corner and avoid taking another hit, I should probably have used the first aid kit to get the driver back up, but I had a lot to deal with at the time. So, wow, I'm alive. Didn't see that one coming. And that's when the KV-2 pops up behind me. Ah, crap. And yeah, he has seen me. And I managed to put a shot into it, but, well, KV-2, dirt gun, 152mm high explosive, that was the end of my game. Didn't last long, did it? 2 minutes and 11 seconds before the KV-2 finished me off. That's how long I lasted, but that was a pretty action-packed 2 minutes and 11 seconds. Now, we lost that one, of course, and we lost that one because despite the fact that I was one of the first tanks on the team knocked out, in the 2 minutes that I was alive, I managed to do 2,400 damage, which was almost double the next best player on the team, and also earned almost double the experience of the next best player on the team. I also earned 70,000 credits on that very short defeat, which was a 57,000 credit profit. I took 19 hits during the course of that game, only 5 of them penetrated. My armour bounced over 3,000 hit points worth of damage. My next game in the Object 252 was an unmitigated disaster, but I'm going to show it to you anyway, and you'll see why. Despite the matchmaker once again being very, very kind to me, it was a Tier 8 battle on Muravanka, it was Lemming Train City all over again, with the exception of one medium tank. I was the only tank on my team who bothered going over to cover the forest on the eastern end of the map. Naturally, we ran into half the enemy team. The medium who was with me did not survive very long, and I was forced to hightail it out of there at full speed. And that's why you're seeing this particular replay, because once again, it's going to show you the power of the armour on the Object 252, only this time from the sides and rear. Now, you can't expect to bounce as many shots from the sides and rear on this tank as you are going to bounce from the front, but you're going to bounce a surprising number of shots anyway. Just get a load of this. I don't know how many tanks are shooting at me. It's all of them, I think. But despite the fact that I'm sitting here stationary with this tank's big fat ass pointing towards them, I'm actually bouncing a surprising number of hits. This tank has 90mm of rear hull armour, but it's sloped back at an angle of around about 55 degrees, which gives it an effective thickness of anything between 150 and 170mm. And it does a surprisingly good job. These guys are in hot pursuit. My tracks are gone again, but I'm not dead yet. I haven't actually done any damage yet, and I'm not going to do any damage, but the shots are still bouncing, despite the fact that I'm a one-shot kill for most of these guys. And there's another bounce from the Bulldog. But the Bulldog is, in fact, finally, thanks to dogged persistence, going to finish me off. 1,500 damage bounced from the rear. Any other tank would have been dead a minute ago. You see, there's a reason why your Soviet heavy tanks are as popular as they are. They're big tanks with a lot of armour, a lot of health, and big guns that do a lot of damage. They're pretty much idiot-proof. Now, I'm not saying that only idiots drive Soviet heavy tanks. What I mean by that is that you can make mistakes in a tank that has a lot of armour, a lot of health, and a big gun, and get away with it while still doing a respectable amount of damage. If you blunder around the corner of a city street in, for example, a T-44, and you run face first into 2 Emil-1s, a T-34-85, and, I don't know, maybe an IS-3, you're going to die very, very quickly. But if you do that in an Object 252, for example, Well, you're going to get some kills, you're going to do 2,500 damage, and you're going to bounce 3,500 damage with your armour. Soviet heavy tanks are very forgiving of mistakes. They've got armour that works very well from the front, and reasonably well from most other angles. They've got a lot of health, and they've got big old guns that do a lot of damage at close range without having to take too much care and attention as far as aiming is concerned. You can pretty much put any old idiot into a Soviet heavy tank, and they're probably going to do okay. If you expose your flanks in an American heavy tank, you're going to get hammered. They tend to have very, very bad side armour. If you expose your flanks in a German heavy tank, you're probably going to get hammered. Tier for tier, German heavy tanks tend to have the same armour thickness on the sides as their Soviet counterparts. But unlike on the Russian tanks, it tends to be flat. German tanks are very boxy, and they don't tend to have that spaced armour on the sides that the Soviet tanks have at the same tier. So again, expose your sides in a German heavy, and you're probably going to get hammered. Soviet tanks, on the other hand, tend to be lower profile. A lot of the side profile of these tanks is made up of the tracks. Anything above the tracks tends to be either spaced or sloped. They're just easier tanks to drive. They're very forgiving of making mistakes. And so in this particular game, here on Malinovka, when we were faced with a bit of a deadlock at the top of the hill, I thought I'd put that theory to the test and try seeing if I could be an idiot in the Object 252 and get away with it. Just made it to the top of the hill. There's no artillery in this game, by the way, so that's fantastic news. And I don't know if you noticed, but I made it up here well ahead of all the IS-3s who were with me. And there's some pretty strong opposition. I really don't like the idea of having to shoot at that T-34. I thought I could penetrate the armour of the Emil 1 there, but it's very, very well sloped. They couldn't penetrate mine either, however. Now, our IS-2 has moved a little bit too far forward, and he has taken some damage. And I tried for a shot at the cheek of the T-32 there, but it wasn't fully aimed, and it didn't go anywhere near where I aimed. That IS-2 is definitely biting off a bit more than he can chew. I'm calling for him to fall back. The IS-3s have made it up here at last. But, yeah. Again, I try, at least at first, playing the tank properly. Side scrape around the corner of the building and try to snipe the weak spots of the T-34, but with .44 accuracy. You're not sniping anybody's weak spots with this gun. Don't forget, it's a proper tank gun, it's not a derp gun, so it doesn't matter how many dissidents you send to the Gulag. The ghost of Stalin isn't going to reach up from the depths of hell and guide your shells to the target. And that's when I noticed that it was all happening slightly further off to my right, and I thought, you know what the hell? Live fast, die young, leave a good looking corpse. Cheeks dig scars anyway, let's go for it. I do take a hit from the T-34, and I take a hit from the Tiger at the bottom of the hill, but I've put a shot into the Emil. It'd be nice if somebody in the team could kill him so he's not on my flank. Fantastic. Bouncing more shots from the other tanks at the bottom of the hill. And the T-34 has wised up. He's actually going for my commander's hatch. So I have taken some damage there, and I try to put one into his driver's viewport, but it bounces. So I'm waiting to reload. And I know the T-34's got a very slow reload as well, but he's taking hits from the flank. And, yep, bouncing more shots from the enemy tanks at the bottom of the hill. And I'm going for that Tiger P, but the T-34's gun appears to take the hit. So, fantastic. My tracks are gone. Let's get them back up. T-34's taken a ferocious battering. My gun's about to reload, but I'm pretty sure my teammates are about to finish the T-34 off. So, yep, he's dead. Use the reload to finish off the IS-2 instead. Still plenty of targets at the bottom of the hill, but we're coming down from the top of the hill in force now. I'm still leading the attack. I'm still bouncing shots, and my tracks are eating shots. That M46 Korea in particular is having a very, very frustrating day. Oh, there he is. Right, let's have some payback. And I take back everything I said about Stalin guiding my shots. There you go. Fired on the move and hit him with .44 accuracy. Even as the tank was immobilised and skidded to a halt as the tracks were blown off. Who's next? Tiger? Yes, Tiger. Probably not going to kill him. Bouncing and eating even more shots. Bounced a shot from the Tiger. Oh, I actually took some damage there. But that's about all the damage I'm going to take for the rest of this game. Everything else is going to bounce. We're going to finish that guy off. Got the wreck of the IS-2, shielding the lower glacis. Can we get the kill on this fella? IS-2's gun's in the way. Not reloaded yet anyway. And he's bouncing. Oh, this is fantastic stuff. Oh, I might get the kill. Come Come on, get the gun. Oh, I got the kill. Fantastic. There's only one tank left on the enemy team. A Super Pershing. You see, if it's stupid but it works, it isn't stupid. The only thing is, if you're in the Object 252, it's not necessarily stupid, because the Object 252 can do it. Lining up for a final shot. Yes, and managed to hit and damage the Super Pershing, even though I couldn't kill him. I do have to give credit to the team here, however, because, well, hands up anybody who's been in a heavy tank. They've pulled that kind of move, hoping to lead a charge down the hill, and the rest of the team have just sat at the top, sniping over the ridge, looking at you and thinking, what's that idiot doing? And you've met a very, very early and untimely demise. But they didn't do it in that game. I led the charge, they backed me up, and we absolutely crushed the enemy team. Top of the team on damage done with nearly 3,000 damage. I wasn't top of the team on experience earned, however, that particular honour goes to the M46 who was on the team. 104,000 credits earned in that match, and 85,000 of that was pure profit. I took 19 hits in that game, only 4 of them penetrated, with almost 3,000 damage blocked by my armour. I like the Object 252. There's a lot to like about the Object 252. It's got a big gun that does a lot of damage, it's got a reasonable chunk of health, and it has a metric ass ton of Soviet Stalinium armour. It bounces shots like no other. The tank is basically idiot-proof. Any old fool can get themselves into one of these tanks, drive around, bounce a ton of shots, do a reasonable amount of damage, and earn a profit, regardless of how good you are in World of Tanks. And that's why Soviet heavy tanks are popular, because they're idiot-proof. And the Object 252 is a very good example of the breed. I have absolutely no doubt that this tank is going to sell like hot cakes, and I am certainly going to be buying one, because it's a fantastic moneymaker. It's cheap to run, and it makes money hand over fist. It must be impossible to lose money driving this tank. So how much is it going to cost, and is it going to be worth it? Well, the stated gold value of this tank is 10,950 gold, and currently you can buy 10,950 gold on the EU gift shop for just over £33 sterling. So cheaper than a Lerva, cheaper than a T-34, more expensive than an AMX CDC, more expensive than a Super Pershing. You can probably expect this tank to go on sale for between £33 and £35, or whatever the equivalent is in your currency. Don't forget, there's also going to be a premium version of this tank with an exclusive camouflage that is almost certainly going to cost you more than that. Is it worth it? Well, you've seen what the tank can do, you know what you can afford, only you can decide whether or not it's actually going to be worth the asking price, whatever the eventual asking price ends up being. But it is a good tank, and if you can afford to buy it, I'm positive that you're not going to regret it. It's just so easy to drive, and it's so forgiving of making mistakes. The tank is 100% idiot-proof, and that probably explains why I like it so much. Anyway, there you go, the Object 252, coming to a premium gift shop near you soon. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.